what happened in season 1 of Leading with Insight, and what should you expect for season 2? For that and much more, stay tuned. Hello, my name is Z.
And I'm Rich. Z, the holiday season is upon us. Are you getting excited?
I'm always excited, but I'm never ready. That's the thing, man. There's some who I envy who are very good at buying presents early. They buy them throughout the year, very savvy, super smart, need to learn from them. But for me, I just, as it gets closer, I then realize, oh my gosh, it's November. Here it is, and oh, it's December, it's December 24th. Great. It's one of those things I have to stay on top of it. But I'm excited. I love decorations. I love just setting up and getting that holiday spirit. My Halloween decorations are going down, unfortunately. But then, you got more decorations coming up. So I'm excited. How about you?
Yeah, absolutely. Like you, not ready for it, but right after Thanksgiving is probably the time. I'll shop all those cyber deals and make the most of it. Hopefully, buy all the presents then. So
yeah, they do it all at once, right?
Yeah.
That way, it's like over with. You can enjoy it.
I do that, but
Yeah.
my wife gets a little upset at me. She's like, "I want to be in the experience." I'm like, "But we're finished. We're finished now."
I want to
Problem
enjoy
solver.
the experience. Yeah, like problem solver. Let's enjoy the rest of the season. But speaking of season, man, we just ended season 1 of Leading with Insight.
That's right. Excited to roll into season 2 and to be back with everybody here. Definitely going to recap a little bit about our favorite episodes and some of what we touched on in season 1.
Yeah, for sure. And that's really what today is all about, is just getting you excited for what's to come in this season. Continue, right? This is basically our conversation between mentor mentee about leadership, while you are listening into this podcast, learning as well, and kind of being that fly in the wall, taking those bits of information, those leadership tools and tricks that we'll talk about, and apply them to your leadership as well. So yeah, I'm excited. Yeah, we're going to talk about our favorite parts of season 1, and then talk about what should we expect for season 2. So with that, who's going to start off? But before we start there, Rich, there's a couple updates. So last time, we're leading off with season 1, you were getting prepared for our program, Aspiring Leaders. You're now coming to the final end, or you're coming to the finale of it. How has your experience been so far with the Aspiring Leadership program here at Insight?
It's actually been pretty eventful. I've worked together nicely with my cohort. Thankfully, I've got paired, luckily, with a nice cohort that, we're all super active in it. Learned a lot throughout the journey, which is great. Definitely excited to implement some of these things that I've learned inside the class and maybe not even wait until the class is over to go ahead and start implementing these things and changes and, really start to try and build my team from a leadership aspect.
Yeah, and for those who, again, don't know about what this program is or, externally, we have several programs, leadership programs here at Insight that we run. The first one is Aspiring Leaders, which, in the beginning when Rich, started and work with us as a stretch assignment and, everything started as our relationship started. That's one of the things that I highly recommend. Like, go through Aspiring Leadership. You will learn a lot. And it's a series of 5 courses courses that you do every 2 weeks. They're about 2.5 hours roughly.
Yeah,
every
roughly.
2 weeks. Yeah. So upfront, and topics vary, but starting off with setting the stage of what is leadership.
Right.
Say, is it servant leadership versus reward centric, going into it with the right reasons. Getting you some best practices from peer to leader. How can I build trust, emotional intelligence, feedback, topics that hopefully, and I can't wait to hear from you, that will set you up for success when you officially, because you're already a leader in my books, my friend, but when you officially start having the responsibility of actually running a team and having direct reports, interested to know what are some of the topics that you learned and also, is it going to set you up for success that day, in one day? The last thing is there is a capstone, which, you and your team are about to present on pretty soon, which we take a case study. We say, hey, here's a organization, a case study, research it, and then apply what you've learned from the concepts and come back and let us know, hey, what were the connections there? So with that, what have you taken away? Do you feel equipped? What has been your experience?
Yeah, I do feel actually very equipped. I believe a lot of the classes and a lot of the topics that we touched on, kind of set the foundational element of leadership, right? So some of those things where we may overlook these things going into leadership and say, oh, okay, just execute X, Y, and Z, this and that. But a lot of this leadership course kind of brings it back down to, these are the basics. These are really the foundational elements that we need to instill and to set the tone, so you can build your trust within your teams, and you can set the stage with that consistency and just always coming to the table and being consistent, building trust, and just developing your team.
Yeah, and that's a big part of it. That was a lot that we talked about season one too. But regarding the topics and what you learn, a lot of times when you do these, they're very theoretical. Like you read about it or you talk about it. But what we try to do is make it more practical too, and actually you put it into practice. So I guess the question for you, from what you've learned, what have you already started putting into practice and instilling in your day to day?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is, just looking at things from a different perspective, red teaming, obviously, challenging people's ideas and trying to make ideas stronger, right? That's the whole concept behind red teaming is, when they bring an idea, you kind of challenge that status quo and say, well, these are the holes that I can see in this. And, how can we resolve for this? And all in a respectful manner, obviously keeping your emotional intelligence in check as well, kind of catering to the styles of each individualistic personality that's on the team, and just kind of navigating as you go.
That's well, dude. I'm impressed. Good job, man. Yeah, the red teaming part. I mean, if your team can feel comfortable and then you feel empowered to do so, that's such a powerful tool as a leader. To have your team like challenge you,
Right.
and go, hey, this isn't working, or can we look at this differently? I see something different than what you're seeing. We're gonna be better for it.
Right.
And you keep, when you were saying earlier, you're talking about trust a lot, how important that is. That's a good temperature gauge of how you develop that trust with your team. If they're coming and they're actually doing that in a healthy way. You talked about emotional intelligence too, dude. That's awesome. So I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad that you're putting into practice. I can't wait to see how your final presentation goes. Maybe in episode 2 we'll talk about it. But with that, let's transition into our biggest takeaways from season 1. So if you missed season 1, go back. There's a lot of good episodes there. But we're going to give you some of our favorites. Why was it a favorite? And then we'll go into what to expect for season 2. So I want to start with you first. What was your favorite episode and why?
Well, obviously, after that, I mean, building and maintaining trust was first and foremost my favorite episode. I have three. So, building and maintaining trust, leadership commitments, and also executive presence. And these three kind of fold nicely together, but I'll unpack them one each individually as we go.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, building and maintaining trust, I think it's, first and foremost so huge for a leader to do, right? You want your team to feel comfortable and confident with you in order for you to be able to, for them to be able to share things with you, stuff that may not be going right, or problems within the group, or, things that they're seeing that aren't working as effectively as they should be. Yeah, and you want them to be able to voice that without feeling like they're going to get their hands slapped, or something along those lines, right? You want them to feel comfortable and open, so they can bring those things to the table. And that's a lot of where the foundation sets with leadership, right? Building and maintaining that trust, and then it rolls into those leadership commitments where I won't touch on all of it just now, but essentially once you do those, the four commitments, right? You inspire people, you develop,
Yeah.
building and maintaining trust, things like that.
Yeah. I think they're talking about maybe like even, when you talked about, yeah, definitely encouraging your team, right? Getting them excited for that. But also I think is that thought leadership.
Right.
Because in thought leadership is all about your team being a part of the decision making. You talk about innovation,
Right.
and then the red teaming and all that
Yeah.
stuff comes in. But that's awesome.
Yeah, and creating clarity as well. Just like, it kind of all fits together. But once you do those things as the commitments that we have laid out, it just kind of sets the stage, and it shows your team that you are building that foundation, and then they begin to trust you more. You come to the table consistently and, show them.
Yeah. No, I think that's so important. So I mean, what a great way, right? That right there is so key. And season 1 was really what it was about. That it was about, hey, what is leadership? Am I a leader? How to develop my team, how to create trust, all these foundational things. And I think for me, kind of piggyback on that is developing your team was my one of my favorite episodes that we talked about. And in order to build that trust, you have to develop your team, right? You have to pay attention. And we know that episode came right after, when I came back from Thayer with those executives that we talked about, and I interviewed a few of them. And what I love about that episode is that their responses were all very consistent across the board, right? These are executive directors and above that know the value of developing themselves, of keeping fresh, of making sure that their leadership skills are, at the top of the game, because they're responsible for their team. And one of the biggest responsibility of their team is to develop them, right? Because as we know, a lot of us that maybe have been in different work environments or experienced various different organizations, once we stop growing, things become stagnant, they become boring. And that's the last thing you want your team to do. You want them to be constantly challenged, constantly looking for, new ways to excite them. When they come in and I can't wait to share this with you. Can't wait to demonstrate or tell you something new that I learned. And I thought that was an awesome episode, which again, if you want to develop trust, start developing your team, right?
Right.
Building them up.
Yeah, exactly. And it helps out everybody, right? When you develop your team, you develop a stronger team. And then, from there, who doesn't want to be on an all-star team, right? You just perform better efficiently and you knock it out of the park. Everybody wants to play with that team, right? Like, hey, let's bring this team into the project. We know they're going to do great work. And that's what it's all about.
Dude, well said. I like it. All right, what was your second one?
So building and maintaining trust was the second, and that, obviously was kind of, So building and maintaining trust was my first.
Yeah.
Leadership commitments was my second, and that just kind of flows through, as I mentioned, those four commitments: inspire people, create clarity, demonstrate thought leadership. All of those four foundational elements that you touch on in the leadership commitments.
Yeah.
Once you consistently come to the table and you do those and you consistently execute those, I think that helps develop and solidify that trust piece. So that's just kind of my take on it, and that's what I've seen. That's just kind of how I feel from a reverse perspective of being on a team and seeing a leader do that. So I sort of tend to like to lead by example, and that's how I would like to, illustrate that through my leadership, is bringing that to the table and demonstrating that.
Yeah, no, I think again it's one of those things that you can have somebody tell you they can tell you they can say the best things, right? They can tell you all these wonderful things, but if they're not following through, if they're not doing what they say they're going to do, if they're not consistently doing these things, right, then people are going to start to lose that trust immediately, right?
Yeah.
So you make a great call out. Yeah, it's like, hey, if I'm saying I'm going to do this, if I'm saying I'm going to instill these things, if I'm going to create clarity, if I'm going to inspire you, and you're not doing it,
right?
That's fine. It's all talk, right? It's
Right,
like
right.
whatever, but if you are following through with that, dude, it's gonna really build that strong bond with that person long term.
Exactly.
One of the things I was talking about, so I've had the opportunity to do a leadership summit for our leaders in India this last week and this week. And it's really cool to teach, talk about the commitments and talk about these things. We're talking about the commitments, and one of the good discussions that came up is they said, hey, they're all like connected, right? Like you can deliver results, but if you don't create clarity, inspire people, and implement thought leadership in your results, it's short term.
Mm-hmm.
Like you'll deliver results for that little bit of time, but your team is burnt out. They're drained. They're not inspired. They're done. So if you want to continue to deliver the same results, you're going to either have to rotate a bunch of new people, because a lot of them have left.
Right.
And they did retrain them, and you're drilling again, and you're trying to deliver results. You're so results focused that you forget about the other pieces. It's short term, dude. It's not sustainable. So you have to have all these elements. Are you probably good at one, two? Yeah, some are natural for us, but you have to maintain. You have to be good in all four, man. You have to, in order to have that long-standing results. So that was a cool conversation to have. Again, shout out to all my leaders in India. It's been a fun experience, and they were very committed, man. It was a good session.
Awesome. Yeah, that's amazing. And not to mention, I believe, or from my perspective, a lot of these build upon each other, right? When you're inspiring people,
Yeah.
you demonstrate the thought leadership. Maybe it's not in this order, but once you do the three key components, then you deliver those results. And obviously, as you mentioned, you want to do it the right way for longevity, right?
Yeah.
So you keep producing.
Yeah, and you think about it too. If you're able to provide clarity and your team knows what to do and they're self-sufficient, that opens you up to do other things, right? To innovate, to think of what to plan next, be more strategic, and then it just doesn't become tiring at the end. So
Yeah.
it's so cool when it works all together.
Yeah.
So for me, another episode that stood out to me was we were live in Mastery. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So we were there. We had three of our thought leaders at that event. And the topic was, how do we mentor or develop the next level of IT professionals? That was really cool because we got to hear from different perspectives, different experiences. One of them, Mike Morgan from APAC, he's, our VP, our senior vice president there for APAC. Really, really cool feedback. We had Brooke Mounier, who gave us, her thoughts around development. And ironically enough, I did a team builder for her, and we're continuing to develop her team, which again makes total sense. Everything she said just complemented it nicely. And then Johnny Gage, right, as well, who gave us her perspective. I love her story too of how her dad was her mentor initially, and how interesting enough she posted later on LinkedIn that she's mentored some of the up and coming teammates here at Insight and put it under her wing to then develop and see their growth. So super impactful. I think was that our first time? Was that your first live or was that your second live? I know you did something with Allies in Action or alumni group.
Yes. So second, the executive presence was the first, and actually that was my third and favorite episode was executive presence. And again, it kind of all builds upon it, right? When you're doing these things, when you're continuously showing up, when you exude that presence, people understand that you have that gravitas, you have that, whether you have the title or not. People respect what you're saying. They really listen to you. They value your opinions and your thoughts. So.
Yeah, and that was with Shaitra, right?
Yeah,
that was cool.
Yeah.
And then we didn't have her live, but you had her live.
Yes.
We were able to take some of those clips
Snippets.
of her conversation with you,
Right.
And we talked about it in that episode, which was really cool. But again, that's when we started kind of seeing the evolution of us starting. Okay, we'll take some clips. Now we had some gas, and what's going to be cool about season 2 is that we're trying to get more different stories, different perspectives and views in season 2.
Yep. Fresher perspectives, enjoying that. Obviously you guys will have to check that out at the end of season 1. Go back and look. We had a couple of features there. So yeah, excited.
So that was your third. So my third was around being a diversity leader, diversity inclusion leader, inclusive leadership with Sarah Penza.
Yep.
Again, colleague of mine, good friend. We go way back. We both started about the same time roughly. And just seeing her passion about, what she's doing here at Insight. But not only here, you're starting to see her starting to really make an impact outside of Insight and really building good networks and connections with various organizations. So it was cool to have her on. What was fun about that episode is that we recorded in the same weekend or same week as Mastery. And it was just, it was a busy, fun week for us, man. We were back to back.
Yes.
But we got to learn amazing, not only from the mentors and the leaders, but then we got to have Sarah come in, say, hey, I know that this is a hot topic. A lot of organizations are implementing strategies around diversity and inclusion, equity and inclusion. But it's the ones that really are doing it because they want to and they see a benefit and a value. Those are the ones that are seeing the more results. The ones that are doing this as check the box, we have to do this instead of we want to do this, are not thriving as much. So that's the biggest takeaway for me is hey, if you really want to dive into this, if you see the value, then go all in, go into it with that, really truly believe in it. If you don't, don't you're doing your team and your organization a disservice because you're not going to really put the effort, the time, the energy, and the passion that it deserves because it totally shows, the results.
Yeah, there was a lot of great, nuggets that she shared with us. A lot of great knowledge, especially around, not only the diversity piece, which obviously, we want to be diverse because that's how we bring in different ideas, different, points of view, different perspectives, and fresh perspectives as well. But the inclusivity as well, that's a big key piece, right? And I believe she shared something, a quote directly from Sarah: don't just invite them to the dance, invite them to dance. Which was amazing. The way that was phrased, it was, it definitely blew me away when I heard that. I was like, huh, the light bulb just clicked.
It plays so close to home, man, because it just takes me back when I was a kid and going to school dances, how awkward it was.
Right.
First of all, just go there. And then to just be on the dance floor and let loose
Yeah.
was a rarity. Like, I always feel like I'm being judged.
Yeah.
Do I
Very
belong
much.
here? I don't know how to dance like everybody else, right? But dude, when you have the best fun, when you just let loose and
Yeah.
just be yourself
Yeah. Yeah.
and everybody around you, dude, those are the best parties, the best gatherings when everybody's just able to be themselves.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of what it's all about, right? That inclusivity is you invite them to the table, and then not only just to be sitting at the table with you, but you say, "Hey, I want to know more from your perspective. I want to know more about what you have to offer, or how do you see this?"
Yeah.
That way you can, build upon that and truly make your organization stronger.
Yeah. Yeah. And you have fun at the same time.
Yeah, yeah.
It's funny because we're talking about the holiday season. How many organizations are already planning their holiday parties? And then thinking about, dude, this typical like, hey, there's dinner, you grab this and then you go home. Great. Like, do I want to go next year? But I bet those really awesome holiday parties when everybody just let loose, have fun, be themselves, enjoy the music, just enjoy each other's company, and just get away from worrying about being judged, worrying about not being yourself and being so,
Yeah.
so like, I don't know, rigid or something. I don't know. But yeah, that's great. And that's a part. Hey, that's a parties we want to be a part of. So if you have a holiday party and you want to plus one or two, Rich and I are 100% available. We just got to check with the wives. All right. So that was season one. So a lot
Yeah.
of good stuff, man. I look forward to continue to have these conversations with you regarding season two, because now our focus is on saying, hey, as a leader, you're gonna come across a lot of challenges, especially as a new leader, whether a new leader to leadership in general, a new leader to an organization, or a new leader to a new team. Right? There's a lot of different, like when you're building that first, those first encounters. So we're gonna start off with a lot of topics around that. Hey, what are the challenges that I'm dealing with as a leader when I'm starting something new, right? So I'm excited for that. I'm excited to tap into some of those. One of the topics that I'm looking forward to is around decision making, because as a new leader in a team and organization, decision making can be very difficult. It's a lot of pressure.
Sure.
So that's the one I'm looking forward to. What about you? Which one are you looking forward to?
Mine, for obvious reasons, is probably transitioning from peer to leader. Whatever that looks like. Maybe it's in your first role, or maybe you're jumping from organization to organization, and you newly became a leader. What that looks like and how you can overcome challenges and obstacles, and really make headway with that.
Yeah. So kickstarting your new leadership from peer to lead. I love that one. I'm looking forward to that one too, and I think we're gonna have a guest for that one. To kind of get her story and her journey. But then at the same time, you're going to take a lot out of it, right? Because I think that's the best part, is that we learn from our leaders and learn from good or bad leaders to then come up with our own, our own style or our own leadership.
Sure, absolutely. Develop your own flavor, just kind of mix and match, and what works best for you, right? It's not a one size fits all, as we've kind of delved into that, last season. And
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? The thing I love about leadership is that, yes, there are formulas, tools, and things that you can implement, but dude, it's really, kind of make it your own.
Sure.
But at the same time, I love that we were talking about the commitments, right? While you're doing that, are you creating clarity for your team to make it easy, make it less chaotic, less stressful? Are you inspiring them when times are tough?
Sure.
When you have peaks and valleys of the organization, of the economy, of all these things that are out of your control, are you keeping them inspired throughout?
Yeah.
And then thought leadership, are you always innovating? Are you always challenging the status quo? Are you always looking for better ways and things to improve, right? And empowering them to be a part of that process. And then the results will follow, man. And deliver results will become fun.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, they're sustainable for the long run, man. They're gonna be there, and you don't have to like. It's not a battle. It's more like, dude, we keep winning these awards. We keep being amazing. All my teammates are getting promoted. They're doing amazing things, and now it's spreading out, and that's the world I want to live in, man.
Yeah,
So
yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to it, and should be an exciting season. Definitely excited for episode 2. Yeah.
me too. And with that, we're gonna, again, challenge all of you and remind all of you to go back, catch up if you haven't yet. And if you have, be ready for this season as we come to you. Our goal is to bring you content around every 2 weeks. Be ready for that. We invite you to interact with us. Give us some questions. Ask us some questions. Let us know what is it that you want to know about. What's worked for you, and we'll be happy to share that in future episodes. And that's all it is, man. Start building that fan base and that community that that we can help, we can inspire.
Yeah, absolutely. And as he mentioned before, you can catch us on any of the podcast streaming platforms. Also, if you want to check out our recorded episodes, you can check us out at YouTube. So be sure to like and subscribe to that for our newest content as well. Definitely excited, and maybe we'll show some bloopers at some point. So you guys will get a good laugh at that.
All right. Till next time.